Great. Hello, everybody. This is Bob Calvert, talkingwithheroes.com. Our new site is thankyouforyourservice.us. As most of you know that have been watching a lot of our videos, we've been on the air now 11 years, including 6 years going back and forth to Iraq and Afghanistan. And recently I was called on the phone by a gentleman named Page. You're going to hear from him in just a little while. This is a reunion of two different Vietnam veteran units that served together over there in Vietnam, and they're going to share a little bit about their stories. They have a really neat event. You can look at their website that's set up. It's www.originalboatpeople.com, and I'll say it again before we go off the air. And so we have the 277th FA and the 212th Infantry, 4th, 3rd Brigade, and we're here again in Colorado Springs. And so to get us started, I'd like to introduce our first Vietnam veteran. If you could introduce yourself, maybe where you're from, and talk a little bit about your service.
Okay, my name is Corky Melass. I'm from Lake Jackson, Texas. I went into the military. I was drafted in 1966 in August. I trained at Fort Sam Houston to be a field combat medic. Went to Vietnam in February the 18th. Stayed in base camp until March the 18th, and then we got on convoy March the 19th and went out to an abandoned airstrip. From there we flew into Landing Zone Gold. Landing Zone Gold was a clearing in the middle of the jungle, and when I landed, the first 3 helicopters had already landed or had blown up. And so as a medic, one of my jobs there was to do cleanup of the bodies. There were like 16 or 18, I can't remember. And then after we did that, we dug in that rest of that day and built bunkers, and then fired support for close infantry units and mech units within our 7-mile range, and then got up the next morning and continued to dig in, and then the next evening no events were happening still, and slept through the night a little bit more, firing support for the infantry and mech units, and then at about 6:30 in the morning, the 21st, is when the first incoming rounds came from the VC and NVA, from what I understand, the 2nd and 72nd Regiment, something like 2,500 enemy soldiers converged on us in a clearing. We had the 3rd and 22nd Infantry had 2 companies there. They were overrun fairly quickly, and then we're backing into closer to our unit. They were our perimeter guard, and then all hell broke loose, continued, and my job was, of course, to respond to medic calls, and there were plenty of them, and the first round that I guess killed anybody in the artillery was hit our centerpiece for B battery, and killed the sergeant that was on the B battery and wounded a couple of more, and in trying to get the wounded into a bunker was a little bit difficult because I was pinned down by some small arms fire that were hitting the trails of the artillery piece, and so I had to keep low to the ground to get him into the hole or them into the hole. Now, anyway, I pulled them into the hole and treated them, and got out and went from place to place finding guys and dragging them into holes and trying to treat them as best I could. And sometime, I think somewhere, and I may be wrong on my timing, seemed like the battle lasted for days, but it was merely a few hours. But sometime during that time, we heard the call that they had gotten one of the quad 50s, which were 4 50 caliber machine guns on one piece of equipment, and they were turning it on us. The enemy were. And then not long after that, after somebody hollered that out, somebody says beehive. Well, I understood that beehive meant they were going to fire direct fire with a 105 howitzer round that was full of what they call flechettes, small nails. Came out like a shotgun or something, except it was big. And these little nails came out, and there were a few thousand of them in the rounds, and they were the first time they'd ever been used in country. They were supposedly an experimental round. And turns out we had more than a full complement of those rounds. We had 40 of them. But we fired it towards the quad 50 that the enemy was turning on us, and repulsed the attack in that direction long enough, and messed up the quad 50 so it couldn't be used. They were using RPGs, small weapons, rifles, pistols, bayonets. They were in and amongst us. They were using a lot of mortars. I can't remember how many. Some of the other gentlemen that you'll talk to today will know the numbers more so. At that time, we had a bird dog plane flying overhead, and it got shot down by, I think they said, like 7:30 in the morning. And then another one came in to replace it. Napalm was being used on our perimeter, but they were already in us, so it was hard to use the napalm to its full effect because the enemy was amongst us. And so it went on like that for this 2 or 3 hours, and then the firing started changing. You could hear the tone changing or whatever, and these guys came out of the jungle of the 2nd and 22nd mechanized unit, and was it the 3rd and 12th that came out? 2nd and 12th came out. That was an infantry unit. No, 3rd and 22nd was with us on perimeter. Oh, 2nd, 12th was there too? Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, the relief came in with an infantry unit, a mech unit, 2nd, 22nd, and it changed the course of the story. They were mounting again another full-scale rush on us from, I think they said the north towards headquarters battery area. And when the relief column came with their 50s and 30s firing, they repulsed the enemy. And after that, it was I'm not sure how long, but when it was over, we were policing our dead and wounded and loading them up, medevacing them out. I remember later in the day going to look for one of my fellow medics with the 3rd and 22nd that was there, and he had been killed with the 3rd and 22nd. Charles Ray Goodwin. He and I trained together, and we're buddies. And then the next day, General Westmoreland and Alvin Webb with the AP reporter came out, and they interviewed some of us, and General Westmoreland gave a nice speech on top of a Jeep, how well we had done, and how it was a pretty good plan because the 2nd and 77th they knew was in the area somewhere, and that it was kind of like we were the bait that drew them to us, and that's kind of the way we understood it from hearing the talk. But
sounds like they showed up at the time.
Yeah. Oh yes. It would. One of our guys you'll probably maybe listen to would be Louis Urzo, I think is his name. He said that they figured, with 5 or 10 minutes more without support, and we would have been through because our ammunition was gone. We had no more beehive rounds, and the artillery rounds were just about gone. We had 18 artillery pieces in the beginning, and we were down to 6. They had destroyed the rest of them. So we were down to 3 artillery pieces. And that was pretty much, our side of the story. They brought us some new uniforms and guns for some of us that didn't have them anymore, and we stayed out there about 2 more days, I think, and then came in.
How long have you been doing these reunions? Is this your first, or?
This is my first one. Yes.
So they're going to have some speakers tonight. I know there's some World War II veterans here too, right?
Yes, there's a World War II veteran, I believe, that was scheduled to be here that was a POW, Battle of the Bulge. There might be the fellow from the Pearl Harbor that watched the Arizona go down and stuff, might be here tonight. I'm not sure.
We'll try to see if we can catch them on camera.
Yeah.
I think one was 103 years old,
yes,
and 293.
That's the man that was at Pearl Harbor deal.
Makes me feel like a youngster.
And there'll be a nurse here tonight that was in Cu Chi that received the wounded and people we sent in, and many, many more, and had to have been traumatic for her.
This website, originalboatpeople.com, is this how people will go and maybe see what happened here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that website is good. The man you'll be talking to, Paige and Bill, both those guys set this stuff up, and with some others, and really us that never knew anything about it, that these guys came out the field and saved. We appreciated them, and that's what, to me, that's what a lot of this is about, just to thank them for saving us.
Great. So are you close to retirement or retired now?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. What did you do?
I had a small business, an exterminating company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my kids are running the business now, and life is good. Had some difficult years and went through marriages and stuff like that, and too much drinking and stuff, but I finally started getting to talk about it, and it's been very cleansing. And of course, I recommend people do that, and I think that's what these gentlemen do. They recommend that people get out and talk about their issues and don't keep them in, because it doesn't get better.
Yep, exactly. So before we close this segment, would you like to give a shout out to our troops and look at the camera when you do it? There's a lot more going over now, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria, and even thank you.
I don't know what to say, except that if you come back and you've been through some traumatic things that you may think not bother you, then you need to look for the right people to support you, and there are plenty of people out there to do that, and it's available. And ask those people who can do it. I think Paige meets people when they get off the plane, and he does this on his own. He doesn't.
Good. I'll be sure
Not
to ask
part of an outfit.
Yeah.
Yes, you really do need. My wife was telling me about last night. That's what we all need to be doing. Us veterans that have been through combat need to reach out to other veterans that have been through combat and help.
Yeah, I've been working with a lot of veterans with recreational wellness groups, most of them led by veterans, helping other veterans, vets helping vets.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Bob.
Good
Appreciate
meeting
it.
you, and I'll let you know as soon as the video goes up.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you,
Appreciate
sir.
it. Hope you help
Well,
people.
folks, once again,